This is by far the most tedious and dumbest thing ever added to Undertale. Heck, if you loved Undertale for its characters, battle system, and lore, throw all of that out the window because this is Undertale now. Yeah! So, quick history lesson. Desert Bus was a minigame inside of a bigger unreleased game called Penn and Teller's Smoke and Mirrors. In the minigame, the player is driving a bus through a desert. You know, that was a much quicker history lesson than I thought. Either way, the goal of Desert Bus is to drive in real time, 8 hours to get to Las Vegas. Despite the game never being released, Desert Bus went on to receive incredible success and popularity, especially with people bringing the concept over into existing games, such as Geometry Dash, Super Mario Maker 2, and most famously, Mario Kart Wii. Yep, that's the entire track. All of these custom levels all have the exact same premise as the original Desert Bus. You go in a straight line for as long as possible, most of the time that being 8 hours long. And then after driving for said 8 hours, you end up at Las Vegas. It was and will always be an incredible test of endurance. However, nobody has bothered to mod this into Undertale, aka the game that has nothing to do with racing, and walking in a straight line is probably the most boring thing in existence. So that's exactly why we're doing it. This is Desert Bus. Could you tell? Modding Desert Bus into Undertale was no easy feat, especially considering Undertale wasn't specifically designed with Desert Bus in mind. No shit! For starters, we need to figure out a way to make this room exactly 8 hours long to match the original length of Desert Bus, which I'll tell you how I did that after you subscribe. Originally, I set the length of the room to only be 5,000 in width, assuming that would be enough, but I was able to get to the end in roughly less than 2 minutes. So clearly the width being 5,000 was too small, which was at that point was already longer than most rooms in Undertale. I needed some way to figure out how to make this one room 8 hours long, and that's when I remembered the long hallway in Undertale. That room in particular takes around 30 seconds to complete, and the width of that room is roughly around 2,500. And that means it's time for some math. With 28,800 seconds for 8 hours to pass, we can determine that 30 seconds, which is how long it takes to complete the long hallway in Undertale, can be multiplied by 960, which gives us an equivalence of the exact 28,800 seconds, also known as 8 hours long. Meaning that we can now take that value of 960 and multiply it by the long hallway's original width of 2,500, which gives us a whopping width of 2,400,000. Yes, this Desert Bus room is now 2 million in width, and surprisingly, when launching Undertale, it actually loads perfectly fine. I was very surprised at this. There is not a single room in the entirety of this game that even comes close to matching this width, but everything loads fine, and it all works completely as intended. Thanks to sprite work from one of my fans, I was able to import this as a background. That way I wouldn't have to tile everything individually, considering the room is 2 million in width, and from there, everything looked pretty much set and ready to go. Or so I thought it was. We need some additional challenges and changes here, especially because you can just walk off the road at this point. That's not fun. So I took some ideas from the Mario Kart Wii version of Desert Bus, where if you go off to the side at any point, you have to start completely over. But how could this be incorporated into Undertale? Well, that's where room entrances come in. All I had to do to get this to work is to make it so a room entrance sends you back to the start of the room. The only problem is that room entrances, when looking inside the game, are very small, and thanks to Undertale modding limitations, that would mean I would have to place each room entrance manually by hand. So I had to find a way around this, and after troubleshooting for many hours, I decided to increase the sprite of the room entrance to 2,000, which is roughly the maximum width Undertale mod tool can import into Undertale. But even if the room entrances are way bigger than they originally were, it doesn't even come close to enough to 2 million. So I would still have to place each room entrance manually by hand. I messed around with so many settings settings, but no matter what I did, it just seemed like there was nothing that I could do to make these room entrances 2 million in width. That was until I came across these values in the sprite settings that were under my nose the entire time. After setting these values to the same value as the room width, I successfully made it so if you go off the road at any point in this room, you get sent back to the very beginning, meaning that you now have to always pay attention because one small mistake and you're sent back to the start. And yes, that means if you're 7 hours in and you go off the road, you have to start completely over. So at this point, I bet you're wondering, what is the point in making this mod? Well, I am offering $100 to the first person to complete this mod all the way through. The rules of this contest are as follows. Your run must be streamed, and the VOD of the stream must be available to be viewed. Additionally, cheating isn't allowed either. I will be able to tell if you have looped your footage or cheated in another way because throughout the mod, I incorporated checks that I purposely neglected to mention in this video so people don't know what they are. And of course, the run must be done completely in one take on stream. Obviously, bathroom breaks and eating is permitted, but you can't just not be consistently playing the game. If it doesn't end up being exactly 8 hours to get to the finish, that's fine too, because that likely means my math was just off by like a tad. As long as I see that all the checks were completed, you should be fine. To submit your run, you must contact me on Discord by joining my server and then showing proof of your stream. When someone wins, the winner will be posted in a pinned comment on this video, signifying that the challenge is officially over. I hope this brings a fun challenge to the Undertale community. Thanks for watching.